What is up, everybody? Matt here, back again with another video for you. Today we're going to be taking a look at the canceled Yellow Submarine Remake from 2010. I know what you're thinking, Matt, Yellow Submarine is coming out. It's coming out for the 50th anniversary in July. Yes, the original film is being remastered and re-released this summer. However, I'm talking about the Yellow Submarine Remake from 2010. This is a bit of Beatles history that some folks are not familiar with, some people are, but it was around the time when Beatles Rock Band was coming out. And the Beatles were kind of having a renaissance with the new audience, you know, with the game and everything like that. And it's a sordid history, you know. I remember following this from the moment I heard about it. And I was so disappointed when it got canceled. But after what I've discovered through my research for this particular video, I'm actually kind of happy it never came to pass. But let's go ahead and let's get right into it here. So we're going to flash back here to 2009, to the D23 Expo. D23 is like Comic-Con, but it's all Disney stuff. It's very, very cool. It's all Disney related. A lot of stuff dealing with the parks. They do panels, auctions, all kinds of cool stuff. And it was at that particular convention, as they do with most D23, they talk about what's going to be coming up in the next couple of years or next year or whatever. So at the 2009 D23, they said, look, we're going to do a Yellow Submarine remake. We have the rights, we're going to do it. And it was Disney, Apple, and a company called Image Movers. They had struck a deal to produce this remake of Yellow Sub. And already, this sounds like it's a miracle that this ever happened. You know, that all of these companies could reach a creative consensus to create a remake based on the Beatles. To create a remake of Yellow Submarine. And Disney and Apple, you know, really need no explanation. But let's talk about Image Movers for a second. The company itself was founded in 1997 and was founded by Bob Zemeckis, Jack Rapke, and Steve Starkey. Originally, they were just a special effects company, and they were known for their effects on Castaway, What Lies Beneath, before going into full motion capture features like Monster House, Beowulf, and the wildly successful Polar Express. And Image Movers were really well known for combining the mocap stuff with the stuff that was created in the computer. They kind of create a really cool blend of computer animated cartoons and the human performance. And we see that a lot nowadays with things like, you know, Lord of the Rings, Planet of the Apes. You know, we're very familiar with mocap at this point, and it's reached a point now where it's essentially a new medium for actors to perform. So these guys were on the very, you know, ground floor of this technology that we're pretty much all familiar with in film and video games now. The film enters production, and this is where interesting details begin to emerge. Bob Zemeckis was attached to direct, write, and this would have actually been his second movie dealing with the Beatles. He actually made a movie, 1978's I Want to Hold Your Hand. Very cute, little funny movie about fans trying to see the Beatles. It's a really cool film if you haven't checked it out. David Tennant, Doctor Who himself, was going to be cast as the Chief Blue Meanie, and that would have been really cool to see him do that. As far as the Beatles themselves, the casting was actually two people. They had two people playing each Beatle. The motion capture, the physical motion capture of them moving around, was going to be done by the tribute band Fab Four for the instrument movement and things like that. And I've heard a lot of stuff about Fab Four. I hear they're one of the best tribute bands that exists out there for the Beatles. So I think that was a really, really cool choice. And not only that, but imagine you're playing in a Beatles tribute band and you get a phone call from Bob Zemeckis, Disney, and the Beatles, I mean Apple themselves, saying, hey, we want you for the movie. We want you to play Paul McCartney, and we want you to play George Harrison. I would have flipped my Beatle wig for that stuff. That would have been really, really, really cool. For the facials and for the vocal performance, I know at least for speaking, I'm not sure about singing, but they had, I always have the weird names, Peter Serafinowicz as Paul McCartney, Dean Lennox Kelly as John, Adam Campbell as Ringo, and the legendary Cary Elwes as George Harrison. wow, what a cast, you know, that you got there. There's even footage that exists of them doing an animation test, a mocap test of Elway's just kind of with a guitar kind of bouncing around. So I don't know how that would have worked with the Fab Four. It was just a test. But anyway, everything was on fast track to get the film out for summer 2012 for the Olympics, which that year, of course, were being held in London. And everything was on track. Everything was going good until they hit 2010, and that's when things really started to get ugly. Because Image Movers and Disney put out their version of A Christmas Carol. And it got okay reviews, not great. And the ticket sales were not as good either. And in this industry, you know, I mean, everything is based on, does it make money? And Christmas Carol, it did okay, but it didn't do as good as they had wanted it to do. And one of the big criticisms was how the film looked. You know, people tended to agree that the effects looked great, that was always fine, but the people were a little on the creepy side, and things just kind of got worse from there. As a result, Disney shut down the studio, and the film was kind of thrown into limbo. And then the bomb really dropped, because next in line from Image Movers and Disney was the horrendous Mars Needs Moms. And that just, was not a success. That was a, talk about egg on your face, that was an omelet. You know, that was pretty bad. You know, there was no more charm. The amazement that had followed them with Polar Express and the other movies just was gone. People had moved on to something else, and you know, they weren't interested anymore. And audiences and critics, they both said, I mean, pretty much every review you will read of it will say, things just look creepy in Mars Needs Moms, and you know, it does not look good. After that happened, it was announced that Yellow Submarine was going to be scrapped. Bob Zemeckis apparently tried to find another studio to produce it, but he couldn't find anybody to do it. He eventually said, and I'm quoting him here, so that's why I'm looking up here at my computer, he eventually said, it's probably better not to be remade. You're always behind the 8 ball when you do a remake. And you know, wow, you know, I wish more directors would kind of take that stance on remakes, you know. I was always curious about how the film would have looked, and when I played Beatles Rock Band, they had a level based around Yellow Submarine. And I thought, okay, the film's going to look like that, you know, and very cool sequence. And as I started to do research on this project, I got my answer. I figured out what it was going to look like. I found a place called the Lost Media, hang on, I got it pulled up here, the Lost Media Wiki. And they are a really cool website because they catalog and find information on media projects that never came to pass. This was one of them, and they found some really cool pictures, character design settings. I'm going to put them up right here. But yeah, you can go ahead and take a look at these. Yeah, pretty cool. And I'm also going to put a link to this down here at the bottom. I'm just going to put the most interesting things on here. But seeing some of these outside of the Beatle work and the background and effects work, I'm kind of glad this thing was shelved. I mean, some of these things are just absolutely frightening. I mean, and the monsters, I mean, they look good, but they look like something out of Pacific Rim. They don't look like they belong in a Beatles movie. But this is really kind of a you know, a bittersweet thing. It's sad that this never came to pass, but it's also kind of good because this probably wouldn't have been too good of a project for the people involved, and probably would have just slipped into obscurity anyway. But yeah, the remake was coming out, and the reissue is coming out, and I thought, you know what, I should talk about this. I should bring this up, and look what I found. But yeah, definitely look into that wiki page. And, you know, I think they've even got the animation test on there, so you should definitely check that out as well. One of the more interesting things in Beatles history, you know, there was, obviously this film, there was also, you know, a couple other Beatles film projects that never came to be. Another one was, they wanted to do The Lord of the Rings, with Stanley Kubrick directing and the 4 Beatles portraying the characters from Lord of the Rings. That is like, wow, you hear that and you're just like, that sounds amazing and awful all at the same time. So yeah, it's kind of cool to read Beatle history of things that may have been or may not have been, so yeah. Pretty cool. Do I think there will ever be a remake of Yellow Submarine? I think eventually, yeah. I think, you know, everything gets remade at some point. The Beatles are as popular now as they ever were, so I could definitely see somebody making that happen. And maybe it would be good. Maybe it'd be cool to see it in, you know, 4K, 3D, motion seats and things like that. Maybe it would work. Being a theater guy, I'd love to see a stage version of it. I'd love to be able to put one on with my students and do something really cool and incredible. And Beatles stuff is fun anyway. You know, everybody loves it, so that'd be a lot of fun. On the fence of there never being a remake, I could see that too. You know, Beatles stuff is kind of sacred. It's possible that people will just like, no, what's the reason? Why would you remake it? It'd be like remaking The Godfather. You know, why would you need to do that? But what do you guys think? Do you think there will ever be a remake of the Beatles' Yellow Submarine? Would you like to see more of this stuff? Hopefully more artists will come forward with their sketches and things like that. I hope so. I'd like to see a script. You know, that's what I'd like to see. I don't know if they ever got that far, but who knows. But sound off in the comments below. And yeah, pretty interesting history. So maybe you guys learned something today. I hope you did, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you guys next time.